Hi, my name is Marcelline. I am a multidisciplinary creative, currently working as a motion graphic designer in Nairobi, Kenya. And my main purpose in life, I believe, is to tell unheard African stories to everyone who's interested in learning about African culture, history, and heritage. Growing up, I've always been a very creative individual, so I tend to jump from one sector to another, and this has seen my career span various fields, from script writing to journalism, specifically video journalism, and in my current space, which is motion graphic design. So for my entries, I would love to speak about my entries for this exhibition. My first entry was the microaggression support group, and the competition had an ask for a biographical entry, and I decided to focus on my own personal experience as a creative in fields that are very male oriented and male dominated. I wanted to showcase the absurdity of the kind of comments I get from people of both genders, which is always a fun thing to learn about, with regards to my abilities and my capabilities and the fact that I am present in the skills. So I wanted to showcase that and just to make people aware, because I know, at least I believe, it's unconscious bias, because it's been so normalized that you expect that it's a cameraman. Even the terminology, the language has been normalized to be very male dominated, and I wanted to showcase like the kind of feedback and interactions I get in such spaces to maybe just enable the audience to maybe try and not be the kind of person who says such things. And if you do, maybe be aware that the recipient might not be receiving it in the best way, even though she is very, very much aware that it is more of a normalization that we need to speak on. We need to start a conversation on how can we have a better interaction with filming creatives. For my second entry, it is called Arts Checkup, and it basically speaks about a conversation between the art and the creator. And I decided to make the creator features very, very African, if you can tell from the artwork, because I'm obsessed with myself and the continent and African women. But that was my intention, and also with the concept of the original Eve, if you're picking back up from science, being African, and that's the inspiration between the Afro and the style, the artistic style of the comic. And she has a jewelry piece that symbolizes both genders, because I wanted her to also be female in depiction, but genderless, to have a genderlessness in existence, or in the artwork at least. So the story and the inspiration for the comic was basically to have a humorous conversation between Earth and the celestial being, which is creator, about our initiatives as humans in trying to correct our mistake with climate change. And we should be shifting the conversation to focus on saving ourselves and saving animal and plant life, because at the end of the day, all of these things have existed before us and will continue to exist after us. So the whole concept of saving the planet is honestly really, really ridiculous when you really think about it. We are such a minuscule participant in the grand scheme of things, and I wanted to showcase that. And as you can already tell, I like showcasing information through humor, because this was also like a humorous interaction between Earth and the creator, trying to speak on the fact that we are trying to save something that has been existent for billions of years, as opposed to focusing our efforts on saving ourselves and mitigating the problems that we're currently facing. Yes.
Hi, my name is Nancy ArtMusic, and I am a comic maker and podcaster. I was originally a musician, but for a variety of different reasons that didn't really work out. But I was still very creative and was thinking a lot about how I could still practice something creative. And so in 2019, I took a couple of classes and relearned a couple of things that I forgot or didn't really pay attention to when I was still learning to do art at school, and eventually got curious about drawing digitally, which is what happened in lockdown since I had a lot of time to learn. And that's when I created my character Umeboshi. Umeboshi means pickled plum in Japanese, except my version has eyes and a cute little face and goes around and does cute little non-adventure things with his other vaguely food-related friends. Through making comics about my little character Umeboshi, I essentially discovered the entire world of comics that went beyond the comics that I saw on Instagram and beyond the idea that I always had about comics, which was that they were Marvel and DC and Image comics, which are all these very big sort of things that get turned into movies. And I was introduced through webcomics to a lot of other different creators who talk about just sort of their existence and navigating life, and I thought that that was really cool. I wanted to bring a little bit more levity to the stories that I do, which is why Umeboshi isn't very serious at all and just goes about life in a cute and silly way. My submission for reveal was a lot more autobiographical and personal than I expected, and I'm always hesitant to tell stories about sort of things that might be sensitive to a variety of different people, and so I don't usually do it, but I stepped out of my comfort zone this time and was able to tell a story about sort of my heritage and the sort of odd, confusing things that can happen when you don't really have firm cultural roots anywhere. And I hope that that's something that people can relate to and understand a little bit better. The response from a variety of different people has been really wonderful and very thought-provoking, which is exactly what I wanted. And so hopefully in the future I'll continue kind of doing this sort of balance between sort of fun levity in comics and just making something that everyone can just relax and have fun with, and some more complex works where people kind of need to put a little bit of thought into it or become a little bit curious as a result of it. Part of the reason I was able to find a little bit more courage to do a comic like this was because of Malia Abidi. She was at a panel during Thought Bubble last year in 2021, and it was a discussion about how comics can be your therapy. And I asked the question of how can you tell autobiographical stories when you potentially risk upsetting the people in your stories that potentially hurt you or, you know, contributed negatively to your experience. And what she said was, not in the exact same words, but you have the right to share your experiences as you experience them with your own perspective. And that was really encouraging because the intention is that I can share these experiences with others and that they're either jumping off points in conversation or that at least it gives people a little bit of an insight to what something might be like for someone else. I hope that you check out my work and I hope that you like it, and as well as all the other award winners. They are absolutely incredible people, and thank you to LDC and Reveal and the British Council, everybody who was involved with making this. It was a wonderful experience, and to be part of a residency again with all these talented women was absolutely wonderful, and I hope there's more of this in the future.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gwantwa Lucas, and I am a storyteller. I go with that title because I use so many means to express the stories I tell, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be able to share my passion for comics and be able to grow and learn from beautiful ladies in the revolt team. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Okay, so what inspires me in my journey to creativity in telling stories is my desire to change the narrative about Africa, the desire to tell different stories from Africa, and those stories being told by an African. That's something that really inspires me, and also to be able to inspire a younger generation, so as a younger generation can see themselves in books, in TV, and being able to relate to the environment. That's one of the most important thing. I feel like a younger African generation, they need to see their environment in TV and in books, and that and their environment being celebrated. So to me, Africa is what inspires me the most. Okay, so the way that I tell my stories is first and foremost is through comics books. I love comics books. I was introduced to comics books when I was younger, and I've just never lost that passion for them. So I'm so grateful that I get to grow up and still use that means to be able to tell the stories that I want to tell. And the second means is through 2D and 3D animations. I'm also an animator. I'm learning through the animation, and I'm hoping to just be able to also tell my story in a form of animations. And also I'm very passionate about documentaries. I love the way we can tell stories, personal stories and all people's stories through documentaries, and they just fascinate me. I love documentary also, and also short and feature film, fiction films. I also explore that means of telling stories. But to me, what really got me very hooked up in telling my stories in the way that I want to is comic books. I love the way you can just get hooked on them. So I love comic books. Okay, so my current project is called Mariam. It's this project came in as I was in a bus and I saw for the very first time a female conductor. Female conductor are people who they get you in the bus and then they are collecting the fees, like the transport fees. So majority of them are males in my country, but for the very first time recently we have been having a lot of females taking on their roles in this career. So just meeting a female conductor for the very first time, and how bold she was and how she was excited and how she really enjoyed her job was really fascinating. But I realized it was something very new, and a lot of people were like very surprised to see her, and some were like, oh, she's not, some people were like, it was uncomfortable for them. So that really inspired me to create a project called Mariam. I think she's a girl who's very fascinated by cars, and she just loves, she's passionate about it, and I wanted to explore that, so I did explore that in this project. Okay, so the project is about a young Muslim girl who is very passionate about cars, and she wants to take part in a car racing competition that is heavily dominated by men. But in this journey, she is faced with a reluctant family and society, and they are willing to fight for what they think is correct thing for a woman to do. And so we will just see how Mariam navigates, explaining Mariam navigating, pursuing her passion as she faces her family and her family and society in general. So we just see how she deals with all that. Okay, so during the time with Reveal, as I was attending the workshop, I got the opportunity also to develop a project titled Nyumbani, meaning home, whereby I personalized, I gave character to trees, whereby I felt like one thing I do believe wholeheartedly is that trees have life, and just because we don't understand it, just because we don't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I believe that trees have spirits, they have life, they tell stories, they see people, and I wanted to show a little of that during this project, and I am grateful that I did, because I was able to give character, to give personality to trees, and also include people in it, because I believe if you want to be a part of the forest, you can become one with the trees. And so I wanted to show that we can become one, we can communicate with trees, and we can allow the trees to prosper. And actually, and how deforestation does really ruin the heart of trees, and it takes a life. When you cut down the tree, you're cutting out a life, you're cutting out a history, you're cutting out a story. So I wanted to really show that in my project. And not only that, I also wanted to express what we can do after deforestation. After what we have done, there's always a new life that we can foster and we can push forward. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity. Thank you for the workshop. It was such an amazing opportunity. I've learned a lot from the ladies, from the organizers. It's really I can say a life-changing opportunity, because I've learned how to tell my stories and explore my stories better, and also how to it has given me the opportunity to collaborate with such an amazing ladies. So thank you very much.
So my name is, my name is Charity Atukunda, as you already said. And I'm currently based in Kampala, Uganda. Next slide. So I am an illustrator, a visual artist. I'm passionate about drawing, collage, and painting. And I love to combine all of these elements to create my work. And I love to explore topics such as identity, topics that question the ideas, beliefs, and systems that govern our lives. Next slide. So for my submitted work, I will talk about the work that's to be submitted in the anthology, which is a 4-page comic called The Strange Tree. The story itself would fit well in the science fiction or fantasy genre. It's about Mwezi, who is a botanist living on the new human colony on the moon, who returns to Earth on an excursion to a newly regenerated forest on an abandoned Earth, only to be met with startling revelations of the people's past through a strange and mystical tree. I was inspired to create this story based on my own personal experiences, learning about local knowledge or indigenous knowledge here in Uganda, and the lessons my father taught me about land and nature. The story itself tries to weave together for the themes. In the next slide, the themes really revolve around the yes. So the themes revolve around the message of the strange tree itself is a cautionary tale. It revolves around the impending global climate disaster we face as humans, and how we must be aware of what the actions of our past have on our collective future. The story also serves as a critique of the impacts of the colonial mindset and the current obsession with commercial space travel and colonizing other planets within our solar system. The idea was to have a story that tries to although it has fantastical elements, it really tries to paint a realistic picture of what life would be like if the earth was uninhabitable, what resources would be available, how would we live, what are the social economic changes, what social economic changes would we face if our environment changes. Um, I was watching a documentary that even showed how astronauts lose muscle mass the more they stay in outer space. So I think that one of the big questions it asks is, if our bodies are meant to be on the planet Earth, where else can we really be outside of this planet, even if we do manage to create all the technology to go anywhere? The next slide. So going forward, the story is a very short one and ends like on a cliffhanger, but I would love to complete the story, to publish it, whether it's self-published or officially published, as a graphic novel. Hopefully I'll find the difficulties. Hopefully I'll find time to complete it while I'm freelancing. And then I would love to collaborate with local writers to create more graphic novels, because I really love, yeah, like specifically when I say local, I mean the African Ugandan creators who have really important stories to tell. Yeah, just to work in this medium of comics and written work would be fantastic. And that's it for me.
I go by the name Umutoni Seraphine from Rwanda. I'm a painter, graphic designer, author, illustrator, 2D animator, and comic artist. I'm a new comic artist. Yeah. After finishing high school at École d'Art de Nyundo, I've been doing art for the past 4 years. As you can see my pictures here, while I was still in school and after when I was working. Here are some of my works that I did. As you can see, there's a progress. Next. Okay, and this is my first comic called The Truth Behind Lies. Why I did this. Nowadays, youth are get deceived and leads them into sexual abuse. Sometimes they don't understand advice from the elders. You know, when someone is in adolescent, it's hard to understand. Yeah, so this book will help. Next. Actually, it's a story of a young lady called Gatesi who lost her mother, and everything from that moment has changed a lot. Her dad, Caroli, got married to another woman whose name was Maria, but her daughter was not interested in her. Gatesi joined the youth forum at Gatoto's youth center, and she made many friends, including the boy who later isolated her. Yes, as you can see, there's a picture. Yes. And then this story is an entertaining story. Youth can love it. It gives advice. When you read it, you can get advice through it. In it. In our everyday life, it concerns everyday life, the life we live in. If you read it, you can love it. You can read and learn as well. It gives it gives the right direction, especially to the adolescent girls. It will help in choosing right friends, because in the story, Gates denied Aline, who was her good friend, and she chose Kesa, but Kesa was not a good friend for her. Okay. If this work gets printed into many copies and given to youth, especially in schools, it can open their eyes and help learning much. This can change mentality in society, especially in society. We sometimes we take stepmothers as bad people, but actually sometimes they can be good people. They if we show them love, they can do it back.
Hello, my name is Birungi Kawooya, and I am actually in Uganda at the moment, so that's why I can't join you. I am starting a residency that I've designed with Njabla Foundation, and it's been funded by the Arts Council, so I'm really excited that I'll get to learn about natural fibres that artists use here in Uganda, and also get to learn more about the natural environment. I used to be a marketer, and I made artwork on the side, but it's been over a year now that I've been freelancing as a cultural producer and also community producer, working for organisations like Greenwich Dance, Karma Arts, producing dance festivals. I'm also an art tutor, and I help people to create artwork in their own vision. So the Reveal residency has been incredible for me. It's really opened my eyes and given me a new way to express myself that I didn't know was possible. I quite like being direct by using words, so I'm going to do this more often. My story is about silencing censorship and also getting the strength to heal through expression. So this has meant the world to me. It's given me a lot of confidence. So I use artwork to explore my British Ugandan identity. Having been born here, gone through the education system, worked in the city for 15 years, I've experienced a lot of institutional barriers, white supremacist hiring practices, ableism. I've experienced no empathy when I've been experiencing anxiety and depression. As a woman, there are not enough positions for me as a Black woman, and also being from South London is also brought up when I'm going for job interviews. Yeah, we don't need to talk about imperialism. Uganda is 60 years old and my parents are in their 70s, so there's a lot to unpack, and I use artwork to express who I truly am away from all of these things that are placed on me. Not speaking my language fluently, I use artwork to develop physical and visual languages through dance and using textiles that are local to here. I'm really excited in this residency to be using natural fibres and to learn more about conservation. That will help me to develop, again, my own language and my own interpretation of culture, which I hope will form a legacy. There's always a way to reinterpret and update culture and respect tradition. I have been commissioned by the World Reimagined to paint a globe. It's part of a national art trail across the UK. And my globe was commissioned by Southwark Council after holding a few community workshops. There I got to celebrate some of the residents that joined, and they talked about how lush their homelands were and really the destruction of the planet, and also how that plays on our minds and mental health. So this is a globe to create a site of rest and restoration. It's supposed to be relaxing so that it helps all of us, and especially Black women, to heal. This is a theme that I continue in my comics. So I will just talk you through some of the main themes of the piece, Colonized Inheritance. Colonized Inheritance is a semi-autobiographical story where I talk about how my father took the land that his mother, my grandmother, left for me and sold it to the Chinese. The deforestation that ensued caused landslides and destroyed, schools, people, girls, and I tried to stand up to him, but I wasn't listened to and I was silenced. And that had a real effect on my mental health and my relationship to the land. So in the comic, I talk about how I use therapy and also use artwork to explore my identity. And that brings me back to health. And I come away with an ambition to come to Uganda and to learn about the earth and make tea with my aunties and learn how to weave with her. So it's actually a dream come true, because this comic has come full circle and I've received funding from the Arts Council to do that. So I want to say thank you to Nicola and to Msanii and to the British Council and everybody at LDC Comics for making my dream come true. Thank you.
My full name is Jennifer Msekwa. I am a visual artist from Tanzania. I'm a Tanzanian visual artist. I was born and raised in Tanzania, and I'm based in Tanzania. Yeah, so all of my artistic activities have been done in Tanzania, and most of my research projects have been done here because I'm comfortable working in Tanzania and I love nature around here. It gives me enough room to explore a lot that I know that I need to present through my work. And because I'm an environmental activist, I know there's a lot to explore in my country before I go somewhere else, and also to include my art in conservation issues in Tanzania. So through my art, I'm an environmental activist. I've been doing this through my art, and also a researcher based only on natural resources. And that's why my artistic signature has been collaging with only natural materials. That is to emphasize being an environmentalist, and also to mark the style that, that will represent me without somebody looking at the signature. They'll know, or they'll tell that this is Jennifer, just from what I've created because of the collage with only natural materials. Because I believe that collaging maybe with something else like maybe plastics will be like, psychologically, I believe it's like telling people that plastics are good, because at the end of in the end, our works look good, they look beautiful. So I know that if I collage with plastics, it will be like telling people that, plastics are good. And instead, I want to tell people that nature is good and it should be preserved and conserved. The conservation is important. Yeah. So also, I'm not a comic artist, but I've got an amazing opportunity in Reveal to explore my artistic experience in comics. So this has been a very great opportunity for me, because I only create masterpieces on canvases or papers, but this time I've been able to create comic stories. This is very important to me because it has been my long time dream to explore my art in stories through comics. So yeah, this opportunity has been great. I've learned a lot. There are things that I didn't know before, but being in this project has helped me to explore more on the comic side. And so far I've created 2 works, Coastal Blue and Zanzibar. And I've created 2 works. The first one is Coastal Blue, the one that I submitted before. And the second one is Zanzibar in the Ocean. All these stories have something in common. They all promote nature conservation, basing on the ocean, because I really know that I know that a lot of people really need to care about the ocean, even when in your country there's no ocean, but you know that you are concerned about the ocean.
Hello, my name is Chela Yego, and this is my presentation on my submission. I was one of the awardees from Nairobi, Kenya.
I am a visual artist and cat mother to Zali, who recently had kittens. I draw mainly children's books, illustrations, and this are specifically illustrations I did for the Brazen children's podcast that tells stories about brazen African women. I also just love during my free time doing still lifes and brightly colored illustrations of like fantasy trees and sea creatures and just color. I love doing stuff with color. Most of my work is drawn from literature because before I became an artist in 2020, I was a book reviewer and I am a bibliophile, and so most of my work is definitely going to come from like stories and stuff like that. I try including like books and literature. I like making them a subject in most of my illustrations, as you can see here in this illustration that I did for my book blog. I also do digital collages based on like my day-to-day life experiences, and these are just examples of some of the ones that I did. The first one being a self-portrait, and the third one being, a collage of Nairobi. So what inspires me? I'm inspired by drag queens. They just, just show how the life of an artist can be really interesting. And visual artists like Quentin Blake and Mimi Chow, Basquiat, I really just love them as artists, and they really inspired me to do what I do. Style was heavily inspired by Steven Universe and the Crystal Gems. The comic I submitted for the reveal competition was Nia, a story about a girl whose town was taken over by a coal mining company and her fight for climate change and the frustration that comes with it, the exhaustion and the climate anxiety. So this is a story that was inspired by Fikile, whose town was also invaded by a coal mine. Fikile's story is an inspiring one, and despite her being murdered because of her environmental activism, her story will continue to inspire other younger environmental activists to stand up and fight for the communities. The second submission is a poem by Dorian called Evening, and I'm going to read it. Moonlight pours down without mercy, no matter how many have perished beneath the trees. The river rolls on. There will always be silence, no matter how long someone has wept against the side of a house, bare forearms pressed to the shingles. Everything ends, even pain, even sorrow.
The swans drift on. Weeds bear the weight of their feathery heads. Pebbles grow smaller, smoother beneath nightcraft's current. We walk long distances, cutting our birds, our packages, burdens, or gifts. We know the land is disappearing beneath the sea, islands swallowed like prehistoric fish. We know we're doomed, done for, damned, and still the light reaches us, falls on our shoulders even now. Even here where the moon is hidden from us, even though the stars are so far away. That's it for me. I'm still looking for an illustrator agent and a literary agent for children's works. So please reach out, and I hope you enjoy the submissions.